All right, so I have started MoneyDance. Turn off my speakers there because I could hear myself. All right, so we come to this opening screen here, and we're going to click, or I'm going to walk this through as if it's a brand new startup account. You might already have this built, but just in case you ever need to start over, I'm going to start from the beginning. So create a new account set. So I'm going to do that, and we're just going to call it Rob's. All right, so how this works is you'll see things that I've typed onto the screen. You can see my mouse move, but when I click, you'll see a black circle that'll appear, that'll show you that I've clicked there. And if I right click or two finger click on a Mac, then I think the little circle is green, so you'll see that I've done that. All right, we'll just leave this as the defaults. Click finish, and it's going to open up. All right, so on the left-hand side here, we have checking and savings already on there. And we can leave it as it is, or you can change it. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is, you may have more than one checking account. So I was looking for an option to rename this. Let's say that you went with First Bank. So you could rename this as First Bank. So if I look across here, let's try this accounts one more time. There we go. That, edit, First Bank. Okay. First Bank, checking, and then the bank is First Bank. Okay. You can either put the amount in here that you're starting with, or just make that a deposit at the as a entry transaction, which I think we'll go ahead and do. Accounting number and routing number, you can put that in there if you want. You don't have to. Okay, this field is going to become pretty important, parent account, and we'll get into that later, but right now it's under Rob's, which is your main account. And you can put their website. So you don't have to do all this, it's just up to you. Okay, so we're going to do that. And then we can do the same thing here. Edit. First Bank savings. First Bank. Okay, we can leave all that stuff the way it is. Now why we would do that is then you could even add a new one. Okay, so it's a bank account. So this could be Scott Credit Union checking. If you're leaving that account open, bank name is Scott Credit Union. Okay. Initial balance. So let's say that this is the one that you've had open for a little while now, and as of today, that was $767. And then we're going to click OK there. All right, and then we're going to click Done. And now you can see the different accounts that you have over here. And that's going to become important, especially with our checking account, as you're creating your envelopes. Okay, so I'm going to click checking here. Now let's go ahead and create those envelopes. So I'm going to click. No. Okay, so I keep clicking that bottom left, and that's wrong. So what that's doing is that's asking, are there any other accounts or entries, these expense categories, that I want to show up on the left-hand side? So disregard those clicks that I keep doing. All right, so we're going to go account, new account. Bank, that's fine, just leave it like that. Account name. Rent envelope. Okay. Or, as we were doing earlier, you could do 01, rent envelope. If you want to keep these not in numerical order, they may kind of default and resort themselves into alphabetical. So if you want to maintain some kind of a priority list, you might want to add numbers to the start. Okay, so this is in First Bank. Right. Now, when we go down here to parent account, we're going to click that, and that envelope is going to be under the First Bank checking. And that's important. So every time we create an envelope, we want this to read First Bank checking. We're going to click OK. So now we've got our First Bank checking and our rent envelope. All right. Add another account. And we're going to do this for each envelope. So 02 would be, let's say that's utilities envelope. I put First Bank as the bank just for consistency. I don't think it would make that big of a difference. Okay, we're going to again make the parent account the right one and click OK. Account, new account, bank, 03, groceries. First Bank checking. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to pause here, and you can do the same, and just go ahead and complete your envelopes. Then, and then I'll start it back up once the envelopes are in here. I'm going to create the envelopes based off of the conversation we've already had and that Google spreadsheet that I sent you, but that can all be changed. So this is just a how-to to show you how to do it, but things might change a little bit. So I'm going to stop it here and I'll be back. Okay, so now we can see that all of our envelopes have been created. We've got 23 of them. Rent envelope, utilities envelope, groceries envelope, cell phone envelope, the different debts, the Discover card, Capital One, Credit One, accident, and medical bills. So the nice thing is, as these are being paid off, you can go back and click on it, account, edit, and then you can make it inactive and it goes away. Okay, so or you can even click this hide once it's 0. So that way, once I wouldn't do that yet, of course, until wouldn't do that. I would just make it inactive, and then it goes away. So that way it becomes less cluttered as the debt snowball works, and some of these are paid off. Then these go away, and all you're doing is then concentrating on the future forecasting rather than paying stuff off. Okay, but for now we've got them. Medical bill, auto insurance, renter's insurance, Comcast, Apple Music, laundry, clothing, health and medical. So anything that the insurance doesn't cover, you want to be putting some money aside to cover those extras should someone need to go to the doctor. Emergency fund, money for a church offering, gift envelope, travel envelope, pet care, and then each allowance. And that's important to have a little bit of pocket money that doesn't have to fall into one of these. And if you look back over on the Google, I'm suggesting like $25 per paycheck every 2 weeks. $25 to last for 2 weeks isn't a whole lot, but it's enough that if you need to grab a soda or a water or something like that, then you've got a couple dollars to do that. But you have to be disciplined. Don't just go, of course, and blow it all at one time. Okay, so I like using the word envelope at the end just to remind us that that's all that it is. It's just an envelope. Okay, and then we'll get into actually doing some transactions, showing how we would, when a paycheck comes in, we would deposit the paycheck and then split the paycheck into the different envelopes according to the plan. and then wait for the bill to come in. And then when we pay bills, we transfer the money out of the envelope back into the checking account and actually pay the bill out of the checking account. And I'll walk you through how that would look like. The thing to remember is that this works best when all of your money is in one account. So right now you've got money in First Bank, well, you will have money in First Bank, and you have money in Scott Credit Union checking. So you can repeat whichever envelopes are necessary, so that way you can put money into those envelopes and save that money out of the Scott Credit Union checking as well. I know eventually you want to use those or use that account for your emergency fund, and in which case you probably won't need envelopes at that point. But for now, if you're using that money that's in there for living expenses until you get to the point where you're saving for emergency fund and you're going to put money in there specifically for that, then you may need envelopes there. So again, same process, click on it, account, new, and then put your envelopes under there, and then move money into those envelopes so that way it's being saved. So and also, you can create more envelopes on the fly. So you get into this a couple months and you decide that you need a new envelope for some other purpose that you're not thinking about now, or something that isn't even on your radar right now. Just add another envelope and adjust your plan accordingly. Okay. So let's go ahead and put in some fake transactions just to show you how this would work. So let's say that we open the account, so I'm going to click New Transaction. It showed up here down here at the bottom. So it's today's date, and the next field here is in the check number. So I'm going to put deposit, or DEP. It's fine, whatever you want to put in there. And then I'm going to put deposit here. Now in this category field, so these at the top, these are all of your different accounts. Okay, so you can see all your envelopes. Once we get down to here where it's got the little diamond shape, these are your categories. So that's what we're looking for here, is a category. So if I scroll down to the bottom, these are all the different expenses. Get all the way to the bottom, and then we start seeing income expense or income categories. So this could be salary, let's say. And a lot of these are stock. You can add to these. So we're going to choose paycheck. So let's say you got paid and you got $1,200. All right, so important. Put something in the check number field, deposit or DEP. If you're putting money in, give it a description. In this case, we're making a deposit, so we can just put deposit, or where it's coming from. So this could be DFAS, it could be Dillard's. Matter of fact, let's do that. So let's say that this is from DFAS. I don't know where technician pay comes from, so I'm sure it comes from a DFAS. All right. And then let's say under memo is Alan's paycheck. Week ending 3/10. Doesn't make sense why we're putting it in on 3/5, but that's fine. This is just an example. Tags, I never put anything in tags, so I wouldn't worry about that. The category, I like using it. I wouldn't say that it's essential that you use it. I like using it because in the future, then you can start running reports out of the program, and you can see how much did I put towards charity? How much money did I pay towards rent? How much money did I pay towards whatever, right? So you can run reports. So so I'd say use it if it makes sense to you, if you can figure it out. If you can't, don't let it be a stressor for you. You don't have to use the category. It would just make utilizing the program more effectively in the future. All right, so I'm going to hit enter. Oh, and that was loud. All right, so now we have a deposit in there. So you can see, oh, it went in as a payment. I put it in the wrong field. All right, so I'm going to move that over here. There we go. All right, so $1,200. All right. So you can see in our checking account on the left-hand side here says that we deposited $1,200, and that's our balance. So now let's move some of that money into our envelopes. So I'm going to, again, new transaction. Down here at the bottom we see. All right. So here, just because we're going to do a transfer, in the check number, I would use something that's consistent, that kind of shows that it's not real. This is not a real transaction. So using something like skip, and that'll make sense later when you get into reconciling. This will not be a transaction that you reconcile with the bank, because this is an internal transaction for yourself. So use something like the word skip. All right, so now let's say we're going to transfer to rent envelope. All right. So now for the category, we want to choose the rent envelope. And over here, let's say we're going to say $600. You can put a memo in if you'd like. So half of April's rent. Okay, so we're in March and we're forecasting for next month. So we're putting half of next month's rent aside. Okay, so now up here you see that transaction went in. We transferred money to rent envelope. Here we chose the rent envelope category. How much money did we pay? And I use the word pay in air quotation marks. And we had our memo. So now our checking balance is $600 because we moved $600 out. So if we go over here to the left, we see our rent envelope is $600. Now, because that envelope is part of our overall parent checking account, we still have $1,200 in our checking account. Okay, so this is where it can get a little confusing if you don't understand it. But so this top line is strictly telling us what the parent account has. First Bank still has $1,200 in it. But right now we have $600 in our envelope. And if I click on checking, I have $600 left that's not allocated into an envelope. But it all still equals $1,200. All right, so now let's do our next transaction. So today we're going to skip this one for reconcile purposes, and we're going to transfer to groceries. Okay, so again, we're going to come up here, we're going to choose groceries. And let's put $50 in that one. Okay, self-explanatory. I'm not going to put a memo in there. All right. So now I'm down to $550 that's not allocated. But $50 does show up over here on my grocery envelope. I still have all $1,200 sitting there in the bank. Okay, let's do a couple more. So this would be something every pay period, every paycheck that comes in, you would look at your plan and say, okay, well, what am I planning to do with the money that I've received? And that plan is what I'm referring to is either your on-paper plan that Dave talks about, or if you're going to utilize like the Google document that I created, something along those lines. But you know, where you've determined what every dollar's name is and where it's going to go. All right. So now you're kind of executing that plan to put money in their appropriate envelopes. Just as if you would do if you went to the bank and you took out all $1,200 and you put them in physical envelopes. So we're going to say transfer to gasoline. It looks like I left that one off, so we don't have a gasoline envelope yet. All right, cell phones, right? Yeah, or utilities. I skipped utilities, and that was envelope number 2. So you need a gas envelope, so add that on there. All right, so utilities, boom, added that, and let's put $60 in there. Okay, and that's kind of part of what we've set aside. So this is probably half of next month's utilities. Okay. Next one, cell phones. So transfer to cell phone envelope. Go up, choose a cell phone, and let's put $85 in that one. Okay, we're just going to keep working down till we hit 0. All right, so I chose the Discover. And I'm going to just do the emergency fund now, just to, instead of continuing to go down the line. You would continue to go down the line for every envelope you need to put money in. Okay, so I choose emergency fund, and the balance is $387, right? You see that right up here? That's how much money we have left that's unaccounted for. All right. All right, so there's our envelopes. $600 in rent, $60 in utilities, $50 in groceries, $85 cell phone, $18 for Discover card, $387 in the emergency fund. Okay. Then down here you would have same thing under your Scott Credit Union if you're allocating money out of that balance for envelope items. Okay, so now it's time that you sit down and you do your daily review and you look to see what receipts you have. Okay, so let's say it's tomorrow. No, because then it turns it yellow. So it's still today. So, all right, so today, so you've used your debit card. So you might do something like that. And let's say that you use that at Walmart. Okay, now you come over here, and what did you buy? So let's say you bought groceries, right? So you're going to go down here, and you can look for groceries, and there's personal groceries. And let's say you spent $20 on groceries. Okay, so here it shows up. Debit card transaction at Walmart for groceries. You spent $20. You're $20 to the negative. Okay, so now what you have to do is you have to go to your groceries envelope, do a transaction out of that envelope. This is a skip transaction because we're going to transfer to First Bank checking. If you only had one checking account, you could just say transfer to checking. You don't have to say First Bank checking, but be as descriptive as you can, okay? All right, so we're going to move that money back to First Bank checking, $20. Okay. So if I look, this was the transaction that we did to move $50 according to our plan into our envelope. Here's our transaction that we're going to take the $20 transaction that we just did at Walmart and move that back. So now we're down to $30 in our envelope. Okay. So if I go back here, Walmart was the 20 for groceries. I moved $20 out of groceries, put it back into here, so I'm back to zero. Now if I look at see what my overall balance is, we were at $1,200. Now we're $20 less because we spent $20. So I only have $1,180 left in my checking account. Okay. And that's what we do for everything. So let's say you just went ahead and paid your cell phone bill. And you did that using your debit card. Okay. So that's one thing to do. If you took money out of an ATM, you could put ATM here. If you did an online payment, it's not really a debit card transaction, right? You didn't swipe your card. You can do you can say online, or if you give like your account number, your checking account number and routing number, they call that an automatic clearinghouse. So you'll see on your statement ACH. So when I do that, I put ACH, automatic clearinghouse. So that way I know it was an online, like an online check that I had them withdraw out of. So it depends on how you pay it. If you give them your debit card number, then that's more like an online purchase. If you give them your checking account number, and your routing number, then that's an ACH. So, all right. So let's say that we paid Sprint. All right. So let's go down and find. We have bills. We have phone. Okay. And you paid the whole $85. Okay. And let's say that's Alan's phone. Okay. So we're $85 short there. And then we're going to go here. New transaction. This is a transfer, so we're going to put skip. We're going to transfer to check First Bank checking. Okay. Where are we transferring it to? Back to checking. So that's what we have to choose. $85. All right. So now we took it out of our envelope. We're back to zero here. We come up here, and we can see where we put the money back into our checking account to cover that bill. So again, we're back to zero here. Our overall balance, because it totals everything up, is down to $1,095. That's how much money we have actually left in our checking account at this point. And that's what you'll continue to do for every time you use your card, every time you're going to make a payment. Log the payment into the check register portion of it by adding a new transaction. And then if you have the money in the envelope, you pull the money out of the envelope, put it back in there to cover that transaction, so that way it leaves you a balance for the next purchase. And that kind of helps you gauge how much money you have. Again, if it just like this was a physical envelope with cash in it, how much money do I have left to spend on groceries until the next payday, until the next time I'm scheduled to put more money in the envelope? That helps you determine what you have to purchase. Okay. If you ever get to the point where you have to buy something that you don't have money in an envelope, then if you had not emergency fund, but if you had money in a savings account that you were just putting extra money aside, you might have to pull money out of your savings account, or you would have to look to another envelope to say, okay, I spent more money in groceries than I had. We went, instead of $20, we spent $80 and I only had 50. So where's that other 30 going to come from? Well, you can't take it out of rent because you have to pay your rent. So if we kind of put these in priority order, right, you might be getting down into, if you had money set aside for clothing or for gifts or for travel, you might have to get down in there and say, okay, well, we spent more money on groceries than we had set aside. So now where am I going to take that money from? That needs to be a discussion that you both have to determine what's the appropriate place, because you can't not pay your must-pay bills. Okay? Which hopefully you don't get to that very often, because the whole key to this is to not spend more than you've set aside for and to try to anticipate as much as possible. So, all right, that's all for lesson number 1. We'll get into reconciling, and I can answer any questions after you've watched this. Send me the questions that you might have, and I can address those to help out as you progress in learning how to do this. So we'll talk to you again soon.